It's a good day to brew, baby. What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Millsy, back at Hometown Commander, back for another episode of Millsy Brews, the show where I run version 1.0 deck instead of the commander in front of us in my quest out brew the magic world. You know the motto, baby. It's ABB, always be brewing, and that's what we're back to do today. The deck list is going to be down in the description for you below. As well as I'd really appreciate it if you could interact with the video, like, comment, subscribe. Consider checking out those links in the description. I'd appreciate it. But today, we're running through week 2 of Aether Drift. And I wanted to touch on a commander that I didn't touch on yet. I had an idea for this commander, and Aether Drift just finally got me there, which was today we're covering Breya, but we're all about vehicles. As a note, starting this week, we're now displaying the brackets in each video. We're going to be using Commander Brackets Beta. Wizards announced that this last week, and we want to make sure we start using it going forward as we get towards April, where it's going to become more final. I will obviously take the beta logo away once we get there, but Breya is a 4-color, 4-land, or 4-color, 4-cost, 4/4 human. When she comes in, we make 2 Thopters, and we can pay to sack 2 artifacts to have it deal 3 damage to a player or planeswalker, give a creature -4/-4, or gain 5 life. The truth here is that Breya is in the command zone because it's 4 colors. This deck was kind of trying to be an Avengers of Vehicle Legends. Trying to play as many Vehicle Legends as we can that hear about vehicles. Breya is here to give us our 4 colors and actually make us a couple Thopters that could potentially crew. And it's just going to come down to mixing our favorite vehicles, legends together to make a fun experience. So that's what we're going to do. So let's get into the legends. Because I think at the end of the day, if I'm going to call this the Avengers of Vehicle Legends, I have to deliver on that. Depala, Pile, Exemplar, giving all of our vehicles +1/+1 as long as they're creatures. And when it becomes tap, we can pay X. If we reveal the top X of our library, put all dwarf and vehicle cards among them into our hand. Again, we're only going to be looking for vehicles here because I believe Depala is the only dwarf in our list. But again, the point is she can crew, she makes vehicles bigger, and she gets more vehicles when she crews. So perfect, exactly what we want. Kenway is a fun example of a card that is going to give us some added value in 2 ways. One, we get a treasure token at our end step for each tapped vehicle we control. We don't have a ton of other pirates and assassins in the deck, so Kenway will make a treasure for itself, but it's not going to make a treasure for many other ones. But whenever a vehicle hits a player, we look at the top card of that player's library, exile it face down, and we can play it. So that's really fun, right? Extending our hand into our other players' opponents' plays. Emery can allow us to get artifacts back from our graveyard, to cast them back out of our graveyard. She comes in and lets us mill a couple so we can actually have options. But hey, if a vehicle dies, we have a chance to play it back out of our graveyard. Greasefang, another great vehicle option at the beginning of combat on our turn. We can return a vehicle back from our graveyard. It gets haste, and we return it to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. So a way to get, again, vehicles back from our graveyard, and he's not a bad power for crewing on its own. Katsumasa can actually pay 3 mana to make a vehicle into a creature if we don't have the stuff to crew it, and then we can actually start putting counters on all of our vehicles, 3 of them, up to 3 non-creature artifacts each turn. Kolodin from the new Aether Drift gives all of our vehicles and mounts haste, and whenever one comes in, it gets automatically crewed until end of turn, which is cool for the purposes of our deck, especially with how many vehicles we have. Kotori, of course, from that infamous precon. Vehicles have crew 2. In the beginning of combat of our turn, we can give one of our vehicles lifelink and vigilance, a great ability. Lita's going to untap every artifact creature we control at the start of our end step, hopefully untapping our crewers and our vehicles so that we can crew on our opponent's turn, and she can make some more vehicles with her bottom ability. Mendicant Core becomes a big threat for the amount of artifacts we have, and then once we hit max speed, we can actually start copying our vehicles as we cast them, which is really fun. I think Mendicant starts as a great crewer that could turn into more value as the game goes on. Sidri there in the middle for a blue can make a creature turn into a vehicle with its power and toughness equal, or vehicle will turn into a creature with power and toughness equal to its converted mana cost. Very helpful for some vehicles, kind of a bummer for others, but there's a lot of vehicles where that's actually not bad. And then for a blue, a black and a white, you can give an artifact creature Death Touch and Lifelink to end a turn. And then we're playing the Brothers from the Brothers War. I think both of them are really useful in this deck in different ways. Mishra at the start of our turn makes a copy of any artifact we control, but it's a 4/4 artifact creature, and it gets haste. This is really nice because you can copy a vehicle, right, and have another one of them if you carry any of those abilities, and you sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step. And then Urza comes in and gives our artifact creatures menace. At the end of each turn of our turns, it makes a construct that can help us either attack or crew vehicles. So both of them, again, work very well for what we're trying to do. Okay, so that was our kind of Avengers Who's Who of Legends for artifact decks, or vehicle decks. Who are our vehicles? Well, Cosmo God of the Voyage kind of counts as a one of both. We really love the Omen Keel on the backside. It comes in as a vehicle that says whenever a vehicle we control deals damage to a player, that player exiles that many cards on the top, and we can play lands from among them as long as they remain exiled. Just a great way to like hurt our opponents as we're hitting them. On the front side, it says beginning your upkeep, you may exile Cosma. If you do, it gains whenever a land comes in. If it's exiled, you put a voyage counter on it, and if you don't, return it back to the battlefield with counters on it, and draw X cards where X is the number of voyage counters on it. I think both sides are really useful. I think if you were, ahead, or if you've got a good amount of lands in your hand, I think Cosmo's not a bad shot. If you want to hurt your opponents, I think Omen Keel's fun on the backside. I just like that it's very versatile. Arms and Armor will make all of our vehicles creatures until the end of turn. Very interesting card and can be useful at the right time. And then let's just get into our vehicles. I think if you play vehicles, you're going to have seen most of these, but we'll still run through them so that you know what you're looking at. Brotherhood Vertibird is a star 4, restores the number of artifacts you control, and it's in the air, a great threat for your opponents if they don't have any flyers, right? Can turn pretty much anything 2 or above into a huge threat. Cultivator's Caravan can either add us a mana of any color or be a nice 5/5 on the ground. Cybership, one of my favorite vehicles we've gotten in the last year or so. Although it's a little bit expensive to put down at 6 and it crews for 4, when it deals damage to a player, we get to put the top 2 cards of that player's library face down under our control, and they're Cybermen, 2/2 Cybermen. So continue to crew the Cybership while stealing from our opponents. Imposter Mech comes in as a copy of a creature an opponent controls, except it's a vehicle with crew 3. Again, a great way to steal a nice ability from our opponents, and it's a vehicle. Mindlink Mech over on the right side says that when it becomes crewed for the first time each turn, it becomes a copy of target non-legendary creature that crewed it this turn, except it's a 4/3. My favorite interaction with Mindlink Mech, if we can make it happen, is if we make a construct 0/0 that gets +1/+1 for each artifact, and we crew a Mindlink Mech. Mindlink Mech will become a 4/3 that gets +1/+1 for each artifact we control in the air, and it can become a real threat. Mech Titan Core, we can pay 5 and exile it and 4 other artifact creatures or vehicles to make a 10/10 Mech Titan token with Flying, Vigilance, Trample, Lifelink, and Haste. And when that token leaves the battlefield, we bring everything back to it. Everything exiled back with it except Mech Titan Core. So a fun way to kind of make a Megazord and then get it back if something goes wrong. Mobilizer Mech, and whenever it becomes crewed for the first time each turn, we get to crew another vehicle, which is pretty cool for free. Nautiloid Ship can exile an opponent's graveyard when it comes in, and then if you hit that player, you can get a creature from that graveyard that you exiled for free onto the battlefield. Peacewalker Colossus can turn other creatures into vehicles or other vehicles into creatures for just 2 mana. Prodigy's Prototype, whenever one or more of our vehicles attack, we get to make a pilot, so better to crew for the future. We're playing Rolling Hamsphere, of course, a 7 mana 4/4 that gets +1/+1 for each hamster we control. And when it attacks, we make 3 hamsters and deal 3 damage to any target, or X damage to any target, where X is the number of hamsters. So, of course, the game, it is just going to get bigger and bigger. Salvation Engine from Aether Drift, giving everybody +2/+2. And then whenever it attacks, we can return an artifact from our graveyard back to the battlefield. Big crew 6 costs, but hey, got plenty of ways to crew it. Of course, we got to play Shorikai. We can tap 1 to draw 2 and pitch 1 and make a pilot and a big crew 8, but it is a big vehicle in its own right. Playing a pair of the ships from Ixalan, the Belligerent and the Indomitable. The Belligerent says when it attacks, we can make a treasure, and until the end of the turn, we can look at the top card of our library and play lands and spells from the top. And the Indomitable just says whenever one of our creatures deals combat damage to a player, we draw cards. So card draw potentiality off the top. You can start to see where some of these are so useful. We're playing the Gunship from 40k, and when it comes in, you make 2 Astartes, 2/2s, and then whenever it attacks, all of our creatures get flying. So a good way to get them in the air and make them a little bit harder to deal with. The Unlicensed Hearse can tap to exile up to 2 cards from a single graveyard and grows for each card exiled with it. A great way over the course of the game to just make it bigger every turn and make it a real threat. And then Valor Flagship's a fun dual threat. It's a 7/7 vehicle with Flying First Strike, Lifelink, Crew 3, but we can also cycle it to make a bunch of pilots. So this is a really interesting card. I think if you need the pilots early game, you just scrap this for the pilots, try to bring it back with something like Greasefang or something like that, and then just have it become a big threat late game. But I've said it before on the show, and I'll say it again. No deck's ever complete. This is my version 1.0 shot at Breya, and there's a lot to learn in combat in testing, which is, are there other legendary creatures we need to add? I thought about something like Alibou. Whenever one of our artifact creatures you control attack, it deals X damage to any target, and you scry X, where X is the number of tapped artifacts. It does only to one target, but it does give all of our artifact creatures haste, so it would technically give all of our vehicles haste. I think there's a lot of arguments either side on it. I just wasn't sure. I thought it was something like cranial plating. We're going to have a ton of vehicles and a ton of artifacts, and I think if we can keep up double black, we can do that sneaky cranial plating attach just to maybe get some big damage on something. The problem with both it and Mirage Mirror, a card I really like to become a copy of any vehicle we want it to, or any creature, is that the problem is just what do I take out for it? We've got to commit some artifacts for mana fixing because we're in 4 colors, right? It was hard to come down to what to cut, but I think these two would be my first considerations to come back in, especially like something like cranial plating. But what I really like about Mirage Mirror is that you can copy a vehicle, and that just feels like a really good idea depending on what that vehicle is, right? So there's a lot of arguments on these two, but I think they're my first two to consider coming back in. But let's get to our playtest here. Keeping a 4-lander with Sonic Screwdriver and Chromatic Lantern, both good ways to fix our mana, specifically the Lantern, allowing all our mana to tap for anything. Landscape can go get a blue, red, or white land. So we have access to 3 of our colors here, but of course the Chromatic Lantern and the Sonic Screwdriver will help us out with that. We'll get a Plains down turn 1. I think, again, we're just working our way up towards the probably the Lantern specifically, just to work our way up there. Well, there's the Katori that we can't cast quite yet. It would have not been bad. It wouldn't have been a bad, it wouldn't have been a bad turn 3 play. But I think we just get the Chromatic Lantern down here. Now we're no longer worried about all of our colors. All of our lands tap from any color, and this is nice because then this Perilous Landscape we don't have to sack just quite yet. But 5 mana, we can get Breya down, or I'm thinking Sonic Screwdriver into Katori, just again get more on board, start building our way up. We have the Imposter Mech. If I had something good to copy with the Imposter Mech, I think I would, right? All right, now up to 7 mana. I like Breya, but I also really like something like Wanderglyph. It makes gnomes that can start crowing our artifacts, and it's going to gain us some value. Remember that Katori could start giving the glyph, could start giving it vigilance and lifelink. I'd play the glyph. If there's anything good to copy this turn, I'm going to play the mech. I don't know what it would be, so we're just going to say I play it, and it's some arbitrarily good creature, whether it's a mana dork, whether it's a decent body with a good effect. I think we want to use it if we can. We're going to come back to our turn with 4 gnomes because of Wanderglyph. And now we're at the City's Blessing, so all of our artifact creatures have +2/+2. There we see a Soul Ring. We play the Gunship. It doesn't have haste, but it can start being a real threat. So it was 1 for the Soul Ring, 2 left. Is there a rule where we play Breya instead? No, I think it makes more sense to play the Gunship, because then we're setting up the Gunship to attack next turn with a huge amount of flying for all of our things. Again, the gnomes can attack. They're 3/3s, right? Or the 3 that can attack might as well, right? They're 3/3s. Get in there. I'd like to get something like Katsumasa down and start spreading the counters around. But turn 7, I would crew these two with... Crew that with the warrior. Crew this with one of the gnomes, because now I come back to our turn with 8 gnomes because of the Wanderglyph. So the one that came in this turn will crew the mech. One of the warriors, I guess, will crew the Gunship. I think we could just Katsumasa, leave up the Plowshares and just attack. Again, this is one of the nice things about Wanderglyph, is it buffs all of these and it's buffing these vehicles. And now they're all in the air, so probably just a huge attack. A little Christmas landy, I guess, but the truth is it would be a nice way to get towards a win. So let's get into playtest number 2. 3-lander with that Chromatic Lantern again, got the Caravan, Kozuma, and Mobilizer Mech. So turn 1, we draw the Gunship. So here, I kind of wonder if it's worth sending that Kozuma off on the mission, to go get its value, or if we Omen Keel. I'm not entirely sure. Turn 2. I don't think there's really anything we can do. I guess we could play the mobile. Oh well, we can't because we don't have a blue source. We can't play either of them. We could get one in the future once we get that Spire of Industry down. So Spire plus Chromatic Lantern. Again, just get that down, get that started. We got access to the Belligerent last turn. That's what we drew last turn. This turn we drew 1,000 Moonsmithy. When it comes in, we make a Gnome Soldier equal to the number of artifacts and creatures we control. And then at the beginning of our main phase, we can tap 5 untap artifacts or creatures. If we do, we flip it over into a land that anytime we use it to cast something, we get another gnome. So the gnomes are great to both crew and they're great as just threats to our opponents. You know, they kind of play that dual role. So 4 mana this turn, I think just comes down to the Caravan, right? We got to make sure we're getting good things down. Kind of like the Mobilizer mech. Because I guess if we play something in crew the mech, we also crew the Caravan. We could also play the Omen Keel, right? The thing I like about the Omen Keel is any creature, any vehicle that hits does it. I think that's the thing that makes me like it more. And then we're hitting more from our opponents. All right, so 5 this turn, mana-wise. We're at the Dispatch, so that's kind of nice. If I Breya can crew something this turn. And the Thopters could also crew something if I wanted them to. If I do the Smithy, I get a nice crewer this turn and set up that for future turns. I would be 1, 2, 3, 4... And Breya next turn could flip the Smithy over if I want to do that. If I do that, I get the Gnome, right? The Gnome can crew the Omen Keel, and I think I think crew the Omen Keel and just take an attack. Hopefully I hit something, and maybe I'll hit a land. You know, if I hit a land, then I play it this turn, right? But obviously we don't know, and there's no way to simulate that, so we'll just have to keep that going forward. So here, 5 mana, again, maybe 6 if we hit a land off that last turn. If it is 6, I kind of feel like the answer is just the Gunship. So if we did hit a land off the Omen Keel, it's the Gunship. If we didn't, I think it's the Belligerent. Or is it Emery? Emery doesn't crew. I guess she crews the Omen Keel, but she doesn't crew all that well. Because I think what? Well, we would just... Do we just tap her, right? Tap her plus the... Well, I guess she is coming down for just 1. So let's start there. She comes down for just 1. We have to mill how much? 4. Do we get anything of note? We see a lot of good creatures, including Urza. So now we've got 2 mana left. Unless I want to go for that. So I think I'll put the 2 mana into the Mobilizer mech. Tap these 5 to flip the Smithy over. And just nothing to attack this. I mean, this gnome can attack. It's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, 6. So it can attack this turn, you know. But again, the whole board here is we're just trying to. And again, if it hits and we find a land, great. We'd be up to 7 mana. Otherwise, we're at 6. So if we use this to cast an artifact or creature, we get another gnome. Artifact or creature. So either at 6 or 7, depending on whether we hit a land. Oh, it would be, well, no, it would be 6 or 8, right? Depending on whether or not we hit a land off the Omen Keel, because we're additive here. I mean, 8 would be ideal. It would just be the Crystal Skull plus the Belligerent, right? We get a gnome off of this. Emery crews. Let's think. One of them can crew the Mobilizer mech, which can crew this Caravan. No, we use the Caravan for mana. One of them can crew the Mobilizer mech, which will crew the... The Belligerent doesn't have haste, though. I guess one of them... I guess Emery could just crew the Omen Keel and just attack with the constructs, since there's, 9/9s, right? And just, get in there. And I think this is a good place to stop for this one. I think we kind of saw it. I think we were just a little bit off on our mana this game. And Breya could have helped, right? In a sense of making a couple Thopters, and she's another crewer. But the problem is, I really like something like that Crystal Skull, allowing us to start seeing permanents off the top. Like we could have casted that Chandra, but Crystal Stall helps a ton, right? Looking at stuff off the top. Well, let's get into playtest number 3, keeping a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lander with Kenway and Simulacrum. Anytime a mana artifact mana value 3 or greater comes in, we get a construct. So a great way to start, right? Getting things in. Swamp. I'm trying to figure out if there's any way to get a blue mana without that Glimmer Void. I was going to say the Glimmer Void's great, but we don't have any artifacts, do we? 2. Yeah, my hope was to get the Simulacrum down turn 3, but I don't think we can. Right? Because this isn't going to be able to get a blue, and I can't get a blue in unless I have an artifact. That's a bummer. I think I'll just go ahead and search this for white. So we have more access to something like Depala. I think we've just got to come into turn 4. Hopefully we can hit something to get it down. There we go. I think I still want Simulacrum because then when I play Shorikai, it could get me a construct, right? And then Shorikai can tap to give me a pilot the same turn, which is kind of nice. Because my thought here now is play the Glimmer Void, play Shorikai, that gets me a construct. Then tap Shorikai, draw 2, pitch 1. I love the Mech Hanger. I like the Buried Ruin because it can get things back. But I'll pitch the Buried Ruin, and then I make a pilot, right? So now we're in great shape because we got a pilot and the construct this turn. Again, Shorikai's crew 8, but that's okay. We're working our way up. Mech Hanger, Sculpting Steel, pretty much immediately a copy of the Synthesizer, right? The Synthesizer will see the copy come in, and then I'm thinking just Commander Sphere, get 2 more constructs. Now we're just building up this board of constructs so that we can eventually crew all these vehicles, right? I guess conversely, we could have done this next turn. We could have played something like the Gunship this turn. Right? If I play the Gunship this turn, I get the construct. And I get 2 of the Astartes, right? And then this next turn, Sculpt plus Command Tower, or Command Stone. Now I'm getting 2 constructs. 3 constructs. Now I can crew both of these and get in attacking this turn. That makes more sense, right? And then this next turn, man, if only that Hamsphere had haste, that'd be pretty fun. Now I think we just play Kenway. Kenway can help crew so that our constructs can attack, right? I've got 2 mana left, so I don't think I can do anything too special with it. Sorry, the Synthesizer would have scryed 2, which we completely missed. That is what it is. Kenway will crew the Gunship. We'll have the Astartes Warriors plus the pilot. Well, no, Kenway plus the pilot can crew Shorikai. One of the warriors can crew the Gunship, and now we just have a bunch of flyers. I think that makes more sense. I think you could start to see the idea of this deck. You know, play all the vehicles and the things you can across the 4 colors and have a good time. But let me know what you think of Breya in the comments section down below, and I will catch you all next one.